Steve, not too long ago, the Switch 2 finally got Final Fantasy VII Remake, and 4-5 months later, we now have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the two of us have been very fortunate enough to have been playing it for the past week and a half or so to see whether or not this game causes the Switch 2 to blow up. Because that's been sort of my question as I've played through the PlayStation 5 version, standard, not Pro. I'm like seeing some of the vistas, like, how is the Switch 2 going to run this? Like, can it handle it? And, well, I'm going to pick your brain because you got farther than I did and are definitely much more technology performance focused. But just to put my opinion out there, better than I expected.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting just how well Square Enix managed to get this running on, again, what is essentially a tablet. The Switch 2, I mean, even compared to a base PS5, is quite small. The base PS5 is still a chonky machine. And so I always had this kind of curiosity because with Remake, that was built for the PlayStation 4. So the path to Switch 2 made a lot more sense there. With Rebirth, that is a current gen exclusive game. It was built with the PS5 in mind. And I played through it there a couple years ago, and I've played through the majority of Rebirth on the Switch 2. And while the cutbacks are pretty plainly obvious, even if you're not familiar with how the PS5 version looks and performs, there are spots where even if you've never really taken a close look at the PS5 version, you could say, that's probably higher resolution. There's the obvious frame rate cut from 60 to 30. And, there are some obvious things, but the fact that it runs as well as it does at all is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I decided to go more beat by beat focus. I know you sort of pushed ahead, and I decided to let's see how just going through normally, exploring everything, checking out every nook and cranny for all those side quests that are outside Calm and with the chocobos and everything else. How does each individual area run within that rather than just try to blast through the story, which is a lot easier because like Remake, it has that ability to just buff your stats. So if you just want to get through this and see much of the story as possible, it's there. And it can definitely help you through. But I was just continually impressed by the fact that, things don't always look the best. You can see the graphical pop in. You can see stuff rendering as the grass sort of filling in as you're going across the landscape. There's textures that don't look great in a lot of cases, but it runs well. I'm really bad at telling the difference between 30 and 60, but it was a smooth experience, so it didn't register for me that it was poor, if that makes sense.
Right. I think a lot of people miss the difference between frame rate and frame pacing. And frame pacing is really where you get that kind of juddery effect. I'm not saying that 30 FPS is the ideal smoothness. It certainly isn't. But I think a lot of people mistake judder for low frame rate. And there's a huge difference there because you can have a game that is at 30 FPS but has really poor, inconsistent frame timing. And so it looks a lot stutterier than it is. And that's what a lot of people notice. Fortunately, with Rebirth, frame timing's not a huge issue. There are definitely places during my playthrough where I noticed the frames taking a huge hit. Inexplicably in Chapter 5, where you're on a contained area, you're not in an open world area, you're just on a boat. There's a spot where the frame rate just tanks really badly for some reason. And it feels like something Square Enix is probably going to fix with a patch because it's not like you're in a big open space that would consume a lot of resources. The only thing I can guess is in this particular part of the game, there's a lot of NPCs because you're in a Queen's Blood tournament, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about Queen's Blood during this. And so there's a lot of people in the adjacent area, and I'm guessing maybe the strain of loading all those NPCs so they don't pop in as you come in the room is maybe causing some of the frame rate problems there. But you do see it. That's the most pronounced I've seen it throughout the whole game. I'm really impressed by the fact that when you're in the big open spaces where you would expect this behavior, you might see, like you said, additional pop-in of bushes, trees, stuff like that. But you're still running at a fairly consistent 30 FPS with minimal drops, and particularly in combat where you have huge screen filling effects and summons and spells, the game doesn't take a hit during those, and those are for me are the most critical moments in the game.
That's the majority of the gameplay. There's a lot of sections where it says, hey, you're gonna just fight for a while, we're gonna really focus on this combat, and you got the synergy abilities, you've got the limit breaks, the summons, as you said, and not a significant hit if there is one. Like I didn't do a frame tool or anything like that to really check, but just regular playing felt fine. And it was the same way whether I was on TV mode or handheld. I honestly played majority handheld in my time with VII Rebirth, and again, I was just sort of impressed that it was so consistent as far as gameplay, combat, all that stuff. Now, unfortunately, neither of us reached the area of Gungaga. I do wonder, I feel like that might be the most taxing area to load because of just how dense the forest is, but
it very well may be. It's hard to say though. It's really hard for me to say. Just I'm really impressed with the fact that this game runs the way it does. Right? It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I agree. Gungaga might be the most, the best stress test for it, and unfortunately, I didn't get there because I was also concurrently working on Mina the Hollower while I was doing this.
And VII Rebirth is not a short game, even if you're just going beat to beat to beat. There is so much happening at any one time, and there's a lot of ways to divert your attention. I'm curious how many people picking it up on Switch 2 have not played it on other platforms, whether this is their first time or not, to see if they kind of know what they're in for.
I anticipate actually that there will be quite a few players who are picking this up for the first time because outside of like really hardcore enthusiasts, big Final Fantasy fans, which I know you and I both are, there's not a lot of great reasons, in my estimation, to pick this up if you've already played the game on PlayStation 5 or Steam.
It is opening up the audience quite a bit, especially with Nintendo fans.
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you're a Nintendo gamer strictly, this is a must-have. It's a great game to have on the Switch 2, especially if you liked Remake, right? You're going to want to continue that story and pick up, because one thing that we haven't really talked about is, Remake, as somebody who's familiar with the original Final Fantasy VII, largely sticks to familiar story beats. There are definitely places where it diverges wildly, but by and large, the majority of the narrative of that game is true to the original Final Fantasy VII. Like they're, meeting Tifa in Seventh Heaven, the bombing in Midgar, stuff like that. And there are places where it starts to veer, but Rebirth is all swerve. Like there's nothing there really that pulls you back to the original game other than familiar locations.
Yeah, locations.
The events are just completely foreign.
Familiar with characters like, hey, you remember Choco Billy, that guy you got the materia from to get a chocobo to cross that little swamp? No, okay, now we're going to expand that swamp and make that whole thing its own event. And hey, Choco Billy, yeah, he gets an entire side quest that goes throughout the entire game. He just keeps popping up when it's relation to chocobos, and he has his own like little mini story. And that's how they're sort of expanding upon it, because it's familiar places, locations, events, but using that same method as Remake to expand upon them and open them up, and taking the opportunity to bring characters from Remake into Rebirth so that their stories continue. And he's like, hey, they're still around. They're still doing it. This world is open and vibrant.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what Square Enix has managed with this, because this is a story that, the original Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite RPG stories of all time. It was already great. And they've taken this and subverted expectations of longtime fans like you and me, and built something that somehow is different enough to keep us guessing, but also expands upon the existing lore in really interesting ways, and adds depth to characters that frankly, didn't have it before, because RPGs just kind of weren't like that in the 90s.
Yeah. And there's as soon as you start it up in Calm, and this is probably, and I think this is in the demo, but they have the whole questioning of Cloud about Tifa, where there's like if you're a fan, there's there's something up with Cloud, but now there's like, Cloud makes Cloud think, is there something up with Tifa? And it plays with those relationships and how the characters go, and how they evolve, or how they interact with one another, especially the integration of Yuffie, because Yuffie was an optional character. She did not have to be there, so she was always sort of off to the side until you got to the Wutai quest in later on. but the way they integrate her in and just sort of slowly like make her part of the team is a lot of fun. It's the swerves that keep you invested. And I don't know, this obviously isn't a replacement for the original game. It almost kind of relies on a lot of that knowledge. But that's very much like Remake. So you know what you're in for when it comes to the story here. It's just that this one has been expanded to such a degree that it's just kind of mind-blowing. There is so much to do in each area thanks to the Chadley quest, and then you have the regular side quest where you get more character stuff. There's, as we said, Queen's Blood. There's one of the side quests is something involving a proto relic, which is, trust me, if you are a fan of Final Fantasy, get those proto relics because you get some really cool series fan service as you go through.
Yeah, there's so much to do in this world, and it's crazy that Square Enix managed to fit all of it, content complete, onto Switch 2. You've got towers in the open world that Chadley wants you to look at that reveal pieces of world intel, and then each piece of world intel goes into, 3 or 4 more things that you can find. The map is positively dotted with things to do, and it's huge. Mm-hmm. If you want your best versions of your summons, there are like 4 different things to find for each summon, and there are plenty of summons.
Oh yeah,
and not to mention you have to actually fight them. So there's loads to do, and all of it is there on Switch 2. Mm-hmm. It's really impressive they did that. And one thing that you touched on earlier is there's Remake didn't have this. Rebirth has a full-on relationship system. You manage your relationships with every member of the team. And if I remember correctly, and I'm about to put my foot in my mouth big time if I'm wrong, I believe the original Final Fantasy VII had a hidden relationship stat.
Yes.
That you never knew about, but it was there in the background.
It's that sort of idea. You fell into the sewers. Do you pick up Aerith first, or you pick up Tifa first?
Yep.
That affects the relationship. And then if you screw up with both of them, that's how you end up with the date with Barrett. In that key scene. But you can do that with each character, and it's another reason to do those side quests, because it could be conversational where choices you make when talking to them affect those levels. But then each other character is associated with one of these side quests that you do that are marked by green exclamations. So this one might involve Barrett. This one might involve Aerith. This one's with red, that sort of thing. And that deepens it, but also just adds a lot more depth to it. And they can be serious. They can be very silly. This game, that's the great thing about these remakes, is they understand the tone of Final Fantasy VII, where it can get deadly serious, but boy, can it get silly whenever they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny thing because the art style and everything lends it to a more serious tone. Like everything looks much more realistic and therefore just kind of has an air of seriousness about it. But then you get to some place like the Gold Saucer and you're greeted by a dude wearing nothing but briefs and a cape and just posing ridiculously, flexing his muscles at every opportunity. And it reminds you that Square has a sense of humor about this, that they remember that, back in the 90s, they used to do stuff like this as well. With the folks in the Midgard gym who were obsessed with squatting and everything, Cloud in a dress. And they just kind of take a lot of that humor from the original and turn it up to 11. And it's so fun when they lean into the absurdity of some of the situations they put the cast in. I really can't over applaud the brilliance of what they've done here from a narrative and a gameplay perspective, because like you said earlier, even with those relationships, like they gave you an incentive to do all those side quests, whether it's herding chocobos or fighting monsters. Like you have a reason to do all of these things that are out in that world.
Yeah, a lot of the cases you'll get rewards of materia that you don't get elsewhere that really affect how you play the game, and there's so many different strategies you can have there. Or you can find these live stream springs where finding one will get you backstory on the area, which just sort of helps flesh out the world itself, talking about the Republic before Shinra took over, or the state of things. But then you find the next one and, hey, here's a spot over here where you can use your chocobo to hunt around for hidden items, which expands your item transmuter, so that all these random materials you're picking up, you can transmute into potions, enhance your equipment, get brand new equipment. And it's one of those systems where everything sort of feeds into one another. You don't have to do it, but if you go out of your way to do all of it, it really expands your options and what you're able to do and how much you just get invested in with this game. But you're also going to raise your playtime to something like 120 hours because there's so much. Like, this game is minigame stuffed.
It really is. The Gold Saucer was a pretty good minigame haven in the original Final Fantasy VII, and it does not disappoint in Rebirth either. Like, you've got the 3D fighting minigame, you've got the bike minigame, you've got a spaceship minigame that's kind of like Star Fox. You've got so many different things you can do, and that's just in one area. It's not like there's only minigames in the Gold Saucer. There's plenty of them in other places as well. Costa del Sol has a few.
Yeah, Costa del Sol is loaded with a bunch. You have the typical like games like for Beneath Junon, the whole thing where you have to ride a dolphin. They expand on that and give him his own mini game. Junon itself with the parade, they do stuff with that and expand on it. And a lot of the proto relics also involve little mini games that you have to do. Like, it's the return of Fort Condor, that game from Intergrade, except I'll be honest, worse because it is so much more precise. And that's the sort of one of the parts that kind of fumbles. Not every mini game is great. Some of them are kind of a pain in the ass, but you still kind of want to do them because you just want to see as much as this game has to offer. At least I do. It sucks me in that I just want to lose myself in this world, and that's 120 hours or so without doing the hard mode, where all of a sudden it's just like Remake, where there's just that much more to do. There's that much more of a challenge, but also opens up other things, and you're getting so much value with this game with how much there is, and it's up to you how much you want to invest into it.
Yeah, and I usually don't like to talk about price in critical discussion of games, but I think it's worth mentioning here because this is a game, like you said, with well over 100 hours of content if you're going to really explore the world fully. And I believe, I could be wrong, I think it's like a Remake where they're asking for $40, $39 or something like that for Rebirth on Switch 2. I know that it's less than it was when it launched on PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is
I see Derek fact checking me in real
time.
Yeah,
I'm fact checking because I've not heard this. I'm actually kind of curious. Here we go. Yeah, well, you are correct. It's not 40, it's 50, but that's not a bad deal.
In an era of $70 and $80 video games, this is a $50 video game, and I think that Square Enix has priced this correctly for the moment. And by, I don't mean for the moment as in this is a temporary price. I mean as in culturally the moment we're in. The moment in where everything is way too expensive. So it's really nice to have a budget-friendly release of a game. They recognize that this is a 2-year-old game coming to the Switch too, not a brand new game. I don't think we'll see this for the inevitable third entry. I think we'll see a regular price, but $49.99. We had $39.99, I believe, for Remake. I don't think a $10 uptick in price for a much larger game is really a big ask here, and you're getting a damn good portable version. Like, yeah. I think that's the best way that I could position this to folks. Like, if you have a PS5 at home, or you have a competent PC, or you're one of the few that have an Xbox and you're waiting for a reason to dust that thing off, I think those are more performant versions of the game, because you're going to get 4K, 60 FPS. If those are things that really matter to you, those are the best ways to play this, because obviously all the updates that are coming with the Switch 2 version are coming to platforms, competing platforms the same day. Yeah. But if you really just want the ability to play Rebirth in the palm of your hand and take it wherever you go, play it on a plane, play it on a train, play it in the car, whatever, this is the best way to do that, considering every other handheld option is like twice as much as a Switch 2 now.
Yeah. And I think you could tell they were working to get it working the same way for the Steam Decks and whatnot to have it ready there. And I think I don't have a Steam Deck, but am I wrong in understanding that it didn't run as well on the Steam Deck as it does on the Switch too? I think you have both. I'm not sure if you checked that or not.
I do have a Steam Deck. I can say, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this, but I don't care. If you do not do a lot of special things to make your Steam Deck run better, games will run far worse out of the box than they do on Switch 2. That's just a fact. Mm-hmm. If you want to tinker and use lossless scaling that generates fake frames and stuff like that, not saying that Switch 2 doesn't do similar trickery, but it does it without you having to do anything.
Yeah.
Then games by and large are going to run way worse on Steam Deck. For me, for my money, I have Rebirth on Steam. It was unplayable for me on Steam Deck. I could not play it there. I tried. I did not enjoy my time with it. I cannot say the same about the Switch 2. I have played most of the game in handheld mode on Switch 2, and I have been enjoying the heck out of it. It's easy to spot the technical shortcomings or technical shortfalls, or but if you're just moment to moment playing, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking, wow, I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in bed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking, wow, 30 FPS or whoa, low res textures. I'm thinking, wow, this is cool that this is a thing that exists.
Yeah. And even on PS5, I'm like I said, base PS5 playing through it. I've been, in getting this game, I actually been balancing playing through farther in my PS5 file because I have not, finished it yet, because I'm like, oh god, it's part 3 is getting revealed probably pretty soon. I don't want to be spoiled on that trailer, so I'm trying to get through 7 Rebirth on my PS5 as soon as I can, while also playing the Switch. And it's very interesting because I'll see where textures don't quite load in right on PS5 as well or whatnot. It happens more frequently on the Switch, but obviously if you want your most immaculate experience, you kind of need the PS5 Pro, and I'm not sure if this one game is worth it to get a PS5 Pro unless I think the people who really care about that have already gotten the PS5 Pro in order to take advantage of that immaculate crispness of the graphics and the performance and everything else. So if you don't mind that stuff, this game really does just perform extremely well. Except for one thing that we haven't mentioned yet.
Oh boy.
It is apparent, you probably saw it in the demo, it does not improve. The water effects are atrocious in this game.
Yes. Particularly when you get to Lower Junon, that is the worst example of water I've seen. Maybe in a Switch 2 game, period. Not just in this game, but in any Switch 2 game. It's got pretty bad looking water. I assume whatever technology Square Enix used to make the water was designed for PS5 and just can't be replicated very well. It's very interesting because it's not a spot where like frames tank or anything. The water just itself looks pretty bad.
Yeah, it just stands out so much rough. More where it just feels, I don't know. I can completely disregard low texture things or a little bit of pop in. It doesn't take me out of the game, but as soon as I saw that water and the way it was just felt so unnatural and uncanny, it's just like, no, this just, it does not click. And knowing that we had Under Junon coming, knowing that towards Endgame there's an even bigger water section that opens up, and we haven't seen that part yet, but didn't get far enough, but I can't imagine that's any better.
I will say that water is inconsistent. So there are other areas of water that I've seen that are not as bad. But I wouldn't say that I would class any of the water in Rebirth as being really good. I'd say for me, Lower Junon is the worst that I saw by a significant margin. And then it slowly started to improve, but I am curious about what the end game holds and what I'll see there, because I feel like it has a lot to do with the scope of the area in addition to there being water. But it's really hard to tell. Obviously I didn't work on the game. But yeah, it is one of the few moments where there's a wild disconnect where, because I would say largely visually, on Switch 2, Rebirth is quite impressive, particularly in cutscenes. Like when you do the close-ups on Barrett and Yuffie and Cloud, hair notwithstanding, they look amazing. Yeah. I'm routinely blown away by how good this game looks in cutscenes.
And you don't have, as John did the comparison, there was, not as much stuff on tables. Whatever.
Yes.
That does not take me out of it.
Yeah, exactly. These are things that eagle-eyed people will notice. They'll definitely see. Like I said, it's easy to see the cutbacks if you're looking for them. But if you're just going through the game and playing, and you're not really thinking about this kind of stuff, then it's just going to be Rebirth on a handheld, and that's going to be kind of neat. And if you're the kind of person that thinks, wow, a big Final Fantasy on a handheld sounds really cool, then you're going to have a great time with this. But if you're the kind of person who is thinking, I'm going to hook this up to a 4K TV and I'm really going to scrutinize the quality of the visuals, you might find things you're unhappy with. And I think that you know who you are, where you land on that spectrum. And if you're further to the TV scrutiny side, maybe play it somewhere else. But if you're on the handheld thing is cool, then you're probably going to have a great time with this.
You only have a Switch 2 and you just want to
I can't wait to see what
this.
the comments say.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very curious what people land on this, because I think if you just want to play, you only have a Switch 2, you really only stick to the Nintendo ecosystem, which seems to be the case because as far as I can tell, Remake sold extremely well on the Switch 2. So that hunger is probably still there for Rebirth as well. I think they'll be satisfied. I think this is it's a lot of fun. You will learn the addictive quality of Queen's Blood. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes.
Yes.
You will this is a card game you will get into, and trust me, as somebody who just recently finished that entire side quest, it's worth it to see the end of that.
Oh, Queen's Blood is great.
It's
just one of my favorites. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. It's all good. It's just I can't not sing the praises of what this game does as a whole. Like, I'm late to the party because I was so busy with other things, and it's hard to focus in that time. So I've just had to make that time in order to do this. But for somebody like me who maybe didn't have it and gets the Switch version, hey, I can play on handheld for an hour here or there and make some progress or do this thing and not feel completely compromised. Again, the gameplay, the combat is maybe some dips here and there if you really scrutinize it, but for the most part, it feels good. And I think that's the key part. It looks well enough, tells the story without interrupting anything, and it just feels like it. So if Square did a good job, but for the most part, there's things to nitpick, but not anything egregious, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. There's really nothing wrong, quote unquote, with this game. It's built for modern hardware and was ported down to the Switch 2. We're all, as Switch fans, we're familiar with that process, and some of the elements of that show, right? Low res textures, stuff like that. But ultimately, you are still playing the entire Final Fantasy VII Rebirth package with no meaningful cutbacks, meaning no gameplay elements were changed. Nothing critical to the actual game was changed. Yeah, you might find missing cups and photo frames and stuff like that, but you're not going to miss out on story arcs or combat or anything like that. They didn't put fewer enemies in, You're going to still get that full experience of the game. And I think that's what's really important here. The rest of it just kind of fades away once you start playing. And I think that's the highest praise I can give it. Is it the best place to play across all things? Hands down, of course not. And that's going to be true of any multi-platform game that the Switch gets, unless it was designed for the Switch. This is the best of both worlds, though. We get a modern game that was designed for modern hardware, running portably and doing so fairly well. And I think that's cool.
And I think it definitely makes, whenever part 3 does come out, and I suspect it'll be day and date with the other versions, I think you'll still be in for a good version on the Switch 2. If you've only played it on, Remake and Rebirth on Switch 2, you're in fine hands. In fact, it's probably going to run better because Square is able to keep it in mind as they were developing it and probably prepare for it a little bit better. And so I think, honestly, not a bad way to play the trilogy, all things considered, as long as Square sticks that landing, I suppose, as far as how it looks and all that. But I do think they are absolutely setting up for a day and date release for everybody.
Oh gosh, I hope so. Like, it would be really nice to get the third one day and date with the other platforms. I will Square Enix, I promise you, I will double dip. I'll get it. I'll get it on both. If you release it on both on the same day, I will save my pennies.
Get that gill ready. Oh goodness. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this, and I think other people will as well. But is there any other thoughts you want to get out there, Steve, about Rebirth on Switch 2?
I think just, what I've said before, if you're into a portable Final Fantasy, this is the best way to play it portably and affordably right now. The only comment I have for Square Enix, if you're listening, if you're out there, please, for the love of Cloud or whoever, do like a save import feature. It would be so cool to play this at home on like a PlayStation or a PC, or maybe I didn't finish on one of those platforms and I could just pick up my save and continue playing portably on Switch. A lot of games are doing that now. I would love to see that for this trilogy. That would be really at least for the next one.
Yeah, maybe. At least they have that sort of compromise with the again, the level boost if you start, which I guess also serves as an easy mode to some degree. But yeah, I'm curious what the overall thoughts beyond us are. I don't know if we're the common thought, but I feel like I personally, if you're like me, I try to describe what I'm all about. I think you'll enjoy it, and I think it's worth picking up if you've not played it before and you really enjoyed Remake and you want to see how the story continues. If you want to double dip, know what you're in for. There's no changes beyond that boost mode type thing. It is just, hey, you get to play it on a portable version on the Switch too, if you so desire. But yeah, the fact that it is pretty much the same, kind of nuts.
Yeah, not a bad thing.
Nope, not at all. So yeah, I think that'll about do it for us talking about this Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the Switch 2. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to GVG, hitting the like button, and ringing that bell. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming with plenty of extra perks. So until next time, bye.
Tacky and understaffed. Great. Hello?
Welcome, gentle sirs.
What in the hell was that?
My most sincere apologies.
Got any rooms?